Welcome. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nancy Wadrago with the University of Illinois Extension. I'm very happy to have the Illinois Broadband Lab and the Illinois Office of Broadband on this final webinar in this series for the Illinois Digital Equity Capacity Grant. It's been an honor to be a part of just the action in getting all of this information out and making sure folks across the state have the information and tools they need. So thank you so much. Want to introduce Anita Lee with the Illinois Broadband Lab, and we're happy to have on her panel of presenters. We're going to let her go ahead and take the wheel and drive this program today, and she'll introduce her panel presenters and the topic. Thanks so much, Anita.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and being and sharing with us. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope that everyone is staying warm, and I guess this would be a perfect day to snuggle up with the one that you love, pets and all the things. Before we get started, I wanted to just kind of get a show of hearts, this is obviously the Illinois Digital Equity Capacity Grant Series, and it's our last webinar of the series talking about digital navigator programs. But for a show of hearts, how many of you have been to all four of our capacity webinars? Just show of hearts. If you've been to all four. Cool. All right. At a show of hearts, how many of you have been to maybe two or three? And I have to say, I missed one. So I myself have to do a heart. Awesome. And then we're going to show of hearts. How many of this is your first one? Your very first part of the series? Awesome. I didn't see too many hearts for the very first one. I think I may have seen one. Okay, no, I see a few more. Awesome. If this is your first one, that is fantastic. We're so glad you're here. As Nancy mentioned, all four will be available to you on several different fronts. I think one will be at the Extension's YouTube page, as well as on the Office of Broadband's website. So thank you so much for indulging me with your hearts. This is our agenda for the day. We're going to do a little bit of a review. We're going to talk a little bit about what digital navigators are and why you need them. And then you're going to have an opportunity to speak with or listen to and learn from two amazing digital equity leaders here in Illinois. I'm going to give you also a little bit of example of some other digital navigator programs that are happening also in real time across Illinois. A few minutes to think about some things to consider as you decide to apply for the IDEC grant, as well as some things to consider when you are incorporating a digital navigator into your program. I want to give a nice amount of time for Q&A to answer all your questions that you may have and to engage with myself and our two leaders and any other leaders that are doing this, either doing digital navigation work or are managing digital navigator programs. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about resources. Next slide. All right, and here are the objectives. We want you to learn about IDEC, especially for those who are their first time, to talk about that review process, that grant process. We want you to obviously understand about this particular project type that we're talking about, the digital navigators, the who, what, and why. Obviously, we want you to learn and hear from these amazing organizations. And once again, to consider what you would need in order to have a good application, as well as incorporating digital navigation into your organization. So next slide. So first things first, our deck review. But before we start reviewing it, I wanted to talk about this slide right here. We are committed between the Office of Broadband as well as the Illinois Broadband Lab. We're committed to digital equity and inclusion. And on this slide, these are the definitions of what we consider digital equity and what digital inclusion is. And so I like to always say, I would like to use a phrase or a haiku that is often used by one of our national partners, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. And I think this sums up the word. The digital divide is the cause that we are all trying to work to achieve. That is what we're trying to close that gap. We're trying to close that divide. Digital equity is the actual goal that we're trying to reach as we close the digital divide. And digital inclusion is the work that we do in order to achieve that goal of digital equity and closing that digital divide. And so we, as state officials, not to mention digital equity champions, want you to be aware. These are how we use these terms in this work that we do. Next slide, Ms. Nancy. So I want to give big shout outs to the Illinois Broadband team. And this is your Illinois Broadband team. The Office of Broadband the Illinois Broadband team is comprised of the Illinois Office of Broadband and the Illinois Broadband Lab. So the Illinois Office of Broadband was created back in 2019, and it is now one of the 50 plus state offices around the country that is tasked with carrying out this huge project funded by the federal government to close this digital divide and achieve digital equity. I'm not going to read all the slide, but what you see over here on the right are pictures of the amazing people that is part of this team. So I'd like to take this moment, just in case I don't get a chance to at the end, because we have such a jam-packed office, to thank members of this team. I'd like to give a shout out to Devin Bronstein, who serves as our director on the Office of Broadband. I'd also like to shout out and send love to the community engagement managers that are, some of them right now are traipsing around the state, letting you all know about this awesome program and the things that we're trying to do. Alicia Ross is here serving with me as my producer. So thanks and love, shouts out to you, my friend. Ling Ling Lu, who serves the Central Region, is actually out doing community engagement work, as well as Hillary Rains, who serves our southern portion of the area. So love and shouts out to them. I also want to give a shout out to the Illinois Broadband team, the Illinois Broadband Lab, which includes myself. We work on the university side of this team, and we serve as a programmatic arm for the Illinois Office of Broadband to achieve some of their initiatives. So myself, I work as the liaison and the leader, standing up a digital navigator program, hence why I was asked to do this last webinar. But my other three teammates include Matt Schmidt, who's our senior director, Robbie Macbeth, who's our broadband engagement director, and Shabika Argawal, who's our data and mapping goddess. I call her goddess. Y'all, if y'all have ever listened to Shabika, you would know why I say that. Next slide, please, Nancy. So, how are we moving? How are we shaping the things that we do and what got us here? It is through this state digital equity plan that was worked on for over a year and submitted to the NTIA back in 2024 that talks about the vision and the goal that we would like to achieve with this unprecedented amount of money to close the digital divide. I like to read the last italicized. It's all about empowering all Illinoisans to use and participate fully in an increasingly digital economy and society. If you haven't figured out now, the digital technology and the internet, it's not going anywhere. It is now part of the DNA of our state, of our country, and our world. And we want to make sure that all Illinoisans are able to experience the digital economy and the digital society with life-enhancing roles. With this vision is available to you on the State Office of Broadband website. It is a lovely light read of about 300 pages. But if you're not into 300 pages, I would say, as you all are thinking about applying for these IDEC funds, that you at least check out the appendices, because the appendices has all of the goals and targets and the justification for those targets for what we need these dollars to actually, and these grants to actually fulfill. So if you don't want to do the whole thing, at least read the appendix. Next slide, Nancy. And so this is a breakdown of really that 300-page document and the appendices, kind of a breakdown of how the state and the university, the Illinois Broadband team, will be taking advantage of this unprecedented funding to close the digital divide. So each and every one of these core activities is what we're doing in order to be able to achieve those goals. And today, and the last 4 sessions have been about that digital equity grant program, because we know that is important to get dollars out to community members like yourselves and organizations like yourself to help us do the work of achieving digital equity in Illinois. Next slide. And this is a timeline, and we'll see this timeline again in a couple of slides. But this is a timeline of the digital equity grant. Right now, our first wave is open on February the 3rd. And that will be closing on March 20th. And we have a second wave that will be closing on May 8th. We are looking for 3-year periods of performance. So when you create and apply for your grants, you will be applying it for 3 years. And the estimation is that by the summer of 2025, after these 2 waves, you will be receiving your first installments. Next slide. And so it is important that we hit these 8 major covered populations as identified by the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, also known as the NTIA, who is the federal agency that is administering these unprecedented grants. And so through careful consideration and research, these 8 populations are the targets that we are trying to make sure that we provide these services for to get them out of the divide and into the digital economy and enhancing their lives. And as you can see at the bottom, 80% of Illinoisans are part of one, or if not 2, of these identity groups. And we understand, because the thought is we understand that these particular individuals are most susceptible and are part of the digital divide. And so we're trying to get them out of that. Next slide, Nancy. These are the eligible entities that are available to apply for this IDEC grant. So for those of you who have been all 4 of these are all not new to you, but we want to make sure that you are aware of the different types of eligible entities to apply for this grant. There are additional state level state level requirements and regulations that you have to do, including being GATA certified. Don't try to get me to understand what GATA is. I think my good friend Alicia is probably going to spell it out for you. But it is a state database that you have to be approved, that have to be in order to be able to receive these grants and eligible to apply. But obviously, take a moment to take a look at these and see if you fit in any of these. It's pretty broad, I would say. And hopefully you are eligible and that you can apply. Or you can be a partnership of all of these and any of these, and you all find one sort of fiscal sponsor or agent to apply on behalf of a coalition. Next slide, please, Nancy. Nancy typing it in and as well. Thanks, Nancy. She's like giving the info out. So these are the IDEC project types. Obviously, the little gold box is over which one we'll be talking about today. But our previous webinars have been on digital literacy skills and building and device distribution. And our Monday webinar was on computer centers and local broadband planning. And so I want to also highlight the fact that when you do submit your application, you are allowed to bundle one or more of these actual projects type into one application. So you don't actually have to do a separate one for devices, a separate one for skills, a separate one for navigators. And so we want to make sure that you know that you can actually do a joint and bundle these project types to do a full-fledged project for your organization. Next slide, please, Nancy. And so these are some of the things that that the merit reviewers are going to be looking for in your application. Obviously, we need you to demonstrate your community need and highlight the covered populations that you're going to target. We want you to have support from the community. We want you to have a clear, concise budget, and we want you to have a plan for sustainability. Next slide, please, Nancy. I'm going to skip this one because we talked about the waves already. Next slide, please, Nancy. All right, so very quickly, we're going to talk about the digital navigators and what they are. This slide talks about who digital navigators are and what digital navigators are. And so without doing the whole reading the slide thing, because I don't like to do that, it's that community partner, that's trusted community partner that can help your residents and your families go through their digital journey. But when I think about looking at the characteristics of who are digital navigators, do those characteristics sound familiar? Next slide, Nancy. So what do digital navigators do? They assess goals, they evaluate, they refer to relevant sources, or they provide those relevant services. And then they check in with your community members and evaluate. Do these activities sound familiar? Next slide, please, Nancy. And why do you need a digital navigator? Why do you need to love a digital navigator? Because these folks provide these life-enhancing services to your client, to your customer, to your resident, to your patron, to your patient, however you call the people that you are serving. They are a resource and an asset to being able to allow you to achieve your goals and missions in your organization as you are serving the public. And why did I ask you about those roles and whether or not those characteristics are familiar? Because they are same as some of the ones you see at the bottom. This is only a small opportunity, a small subset of different roles that provide social service and community-based services to the community. And so digital navigators, or that's just a title, but their role in the community is the same and just as important as any of these other roles. All right, Nancy, we need to, you told me we were running behind. So I want to hop in and let you talk to some great organizations that are doing digital navigation work right now. So I'm going to turn it over to my friend, Natalia Cardenas from Chicago State University with the Abe Link program. And that big long sentence right there is what Abe Link stands for. So I'm going to stop and I'll kick it over to you, Natalia. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, and thank you, the Illinois Broadband Lab, and as well as the Illinois Department of Commerce Office of Broadband for having us the opportunity to pretty much showcase our work and what we're doing at Chicago State. Next slide. So my name is Natalia Cardenas. I am the project manager at Chicago State University for the Advancing Broadband Equity through Learning Intermediary Neighborhoods in Chicago, short for Abe Link. The name was, I think, was pretty creative, like Abraham Lincoln. But again, it's part of the work that we're doing is, advancing broadband equity through Chicago. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Next slide, please. So, a little bit about APE Link. We are partnered with three minority serving institutions and community partners. With that, we're able to really ensure that we are providing resources to our community members and connecting them up to either a broadband access or as well as providing digital learning to our priority populations, which I will talk a little bit next. Our mission, so we are providing services, again, digital literacy trainings, access to broadband to our community members around the 15-mile radius of Chicago State University. And I'll show a map shortly to really demonstrate the capacity in terms of where we are serving in our communities. But with that, we are really doing a lot of outreach work and providing direct wraparound services in our communities and providing, again, literacy trainings. The digital literacy trainings do vary. We go all the way from basic computer skills by using North Star, but we also have tailored our own curriculum and created like small business curriculum. As well as partner with organizations that do this type of work as well. And yeah, so our current participants, we are serving long-term unemployed, transitory and documented workers, as well as single parents and reentry participants as well. Our digital literacy trainings, we do go about to 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the location that we are providing the service. And we are also distributing devices to those participants that are completing our trainings. Again, we do provide online and virtual workshops as well. And again, we have talked about various topics: cybersecurity, opening small businesses, financial wellness. I like to emphasize that financial wellness. I know sometimes we talk about financial literacy, but I think our community members, you know, they can really make a dollar stretch, right? But it's just informing them about different ways about finances as well, and improving digital skills. Next slide. A little bit about our structure of our Navigator program. So again, we are partnered with three institutions, Chicago State being the main grant awardee from NTIA, but we do have subcontracts with Northeastern Illinois University and as well as with University of Illinois Chicago, UIC. And particularly with UIC, they have been a great support in terms of providing the necessary skill sets and as well as trainings for our digital navigators. They provided the cultural competency trainings, and that is what our partnership entailed, making sure that they were prepared and making sure that they knew how to navigate and outreach our neighborhoods. But the trainings that the digital navigators are essentially doing, they're providing digital literacy trainings to our recipients. They're also providing different resource literacies as well, connectivity literacy, and as well as small business literacy. So those are our main focuses in terms of trainings that we provide in the community. Again, the CCL is the cultural competency trainings that we had from UIC. And again, the way that we are able to really reach that 15-mile radius around Chicago State is with the partnership with Northeastern Illinois University, because they provide the digital navigators that are able to serve in other like southwest suburbs as well as the north side of the city. The role of the navigators, is really to serve as role models, not only in their communities, but we also hire student navigators in our institutions. And another role is that they're reaching out and engaging with both community partners. They're building these relationships in our communities with partners, with our existing organizations and community beneficiaries. And the reason why we want to make sure that they're building those partnerships with our community organizations, because that's how we'll talk about sustainability. Um, and again, I do want to emphasize that many of our digital navigators that we hired, they were from these neighborhoods that we're targeting. So when we went through the hiring process, it was very targeted and making sure that they were well-rounded and knew the neighborhoods that we were serving. And again, each navigator has specific targeted areas, which I will talk about it in a second. Next slide. So this is the map. This is the 15-mile radius. Again, the red and purple are all eligible census tract. The red is priority census tracts that we have in our grant. And the yellow dots are current areas where we're providing a specific service like a digital literacy training, small business workshops, whatever the case may be. And again, this was thanks to the digital navigators making sure that they were able to partner with these existing organizations. As of right now, how it's structured is that each digital navigator we currently have in ABLINK, we have 7 digital navigators, 5 at Chicago State and 2 at Northeastern Illinois University. So each digital navigator has 3 sites. And the reason is they have 3 sites is because that's realistically attainable, because again, when we provide the digital literacy trainings, we have classes up to 20 participants to have a well-functioning class that everybody could ask questions and that we could assist. So if you think about it, each class has 20 participants, and if they have 3 sites, that's 60 participants. And then again, our digital navigators that only help them with the digital literacy trainings, but they also make sure that, you know, we are providing well-rounded services. Like if you get to know your participants, right? You see that they may have a need, housing insecurity, food insecurity, and they also are able to, you know, connect them with other organizations or nearby food pantries where they could get more support, right? So we make sure that you know, we keep it close knit and making sure that they're able to support their participants in their classes. Next slide. Some of the trainings, again, provided by the digital navigators. So they are providing the digital literacy trainings. We do that through North Star. And as well as making sure that we ensure that all of our participants are connected to a broadband service. So again, if we are having a we're meeting with our participants through a period of 8 weeks. We have to ensure that by the end of the 8 weeks, all of our participants have access to broadband. Again, we are informing them, making sure that these are available options. And if that's not the case, if let's say, I know we don't have the Affordable Care Act anymore, but then again, if there's nearby libraries or locations where they could access free internet, we make sure to inform them about that. We have been able to partner with, for example, Compudot, where they have provided free high-speed internets as well, and we've been able to connect our participants in that way. But that's an important piece that we also try to strive to. Cybersecurity, we talk about it a lot, how to keep our family safe. Also, with our reentry participants, there's a lot of conversations about workforce readiness. So we provide support and trainings of, you know, how to search for a job, how to prepare for a job, resumes and all of that. Troubleshooting, financial literacy as well. With a lot of our long-term unemployed, we have a lot of seniors that have participated in a program, and they really want to learn, how to use online services like Amazon and other apps. So we help them how to navigate that as well. They have shared that they don't like feeling left behind, so we make sure to do that. But yeah, next slide. Our funding sources right now, we have the NTIA Connecting Minority Grants at Chicago State. And again, we have collaborated with the Illinois Broadband Lab as well as the state of Illinois for state funding as well. We have received donations of devices through our institutional foundation. So at Chicago State, through our foundation, we have received donations of that sort, but those are our current funding sources. Next slide. Some of the challenges, obviously, about sustainability is funding, how we continue to fund our program. And something that we have thought about is making sure that, again, we are connecting with organizations that are doing these type of work. Again, digital literacy, digital navigation, small business workshops, whatever the case it may be, we're making sure that we're also partnering with organizations that are doing this type of work already, like nonprofits, to make sure that there is a connection. And given the case that we don't no longer exist, there's still something in place, right? Our participants, again, our communities are directly impacted. They're able to communicate with these organizations, nonprofits. Another challenge, and I'm talking about this current month, the climate in our communities is very important to build trust because we have had a low number of attendance, in-person interactions, given the current climate of what's going on in DC and so forth. For example, people are just scared to just go out and attend in-person sessions. So that's something that we're currently trying to navigate, but we're making sure that we're building trust in our community and offering online services as well. And then just some challenges is the bureaucratic processes at the federal level and internally in our campuses. Again, just making sure that we are aligned with like internal fiscal years. That's making sure, but that we're able to navigate, but making sure that we have timelines that work for both at the federal level and as well as internally at this institution level. Next slide. Currently, this is our milestones, and we currently have served 346 participants, and we started our new classes on the week of January 27th, and we currently have 226. So once we're done with the 8-week, that number will increase. Hours, well, we have 1,931 hours of learning. We have 4,032 engagements. By engagements, that we have interactions in our communities, whether it being workshops, one-on-one interactions, and so forth. And we have distributed 368 devices. Next slide. I would like to invite Pamisha Robinson, one of our digital navigators, to talk a little bit about our partners and her experience as a digital navigator.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. We have our partners as Safer Foundation, the Chicago Public Library, Northwest Center, Corazon Community Services, Chicago.
Pamisha, you
Yeah.
muted yourself.
Oh, I am so sorry. Good morning, everyone. Some of our partners are the Safer Foundation, Palenque, Chicago Urban League, Enlace, City of Harvey, Corazon, Northwest Center, and Chicago Public Library. Next slide. One of our participants that we had in our program, they said that the entire workshop topics and all the instructors were excellent. I learned something new in each workshop, and I really do appreciate this program. Thank you. Next slide, I'll be able to kind of expand a little bit on. So what we have is you can go to the next slide. Yes. Okay, so this is our culmination events that we have. So after our participants participate in a 6 to 8 week workshop, as Natalia explained, we have a graduation at Chicago State University, which is also known as our culmination event. Once our participants go through the program and they pass an assessment with an 86% or above, they are able to participate in this big family affair, because that's really what it is. It's a big family affair where the participants are able to invite their families, 2 members of their families, and sometimes 3, to come and watch them walk across the stage to receive their laptop and their certificate. Most people on the first day of class, they're like stressed out, like, because as soon as you say assessment, as soon as you say anything about a test, as soon as you say anything about them having to complete it, it's like that anxiety kicks in. But the fact that we have my coworkers, it's 7 of us, including those 6, but we work very, very hard and we work together to kind of like ease that fear and that anxiety. We use a lot of tactics as far as like trying to learn about their families, especially using emotional intelligence, which was the training that we learned from UIC earlier on. Because sometimes when you're dealing with people, they're not thinking about wanting to learn your work, want to do anything that's in your class, because they're dealing with so many other problems. So we try to create those moments of teachable moments, and we try to kind of reduce some of those barriers by ensuring that we have the resources. We use the people that we have partnered with, the organizations that we have partnered with, to make sure that they are able to like go to the food pantry to feed their families, to make sure that they're able to go to Chicago State to enroll in some classes in addition to taking in our digital literacy classes. But I really, really think that most people who come through our program, they are most excited once they complete it. Once that last day of that 6 week is over with, or that last day of that 8 week is over with, they are very excited and they are looking forward to what I say, that family environment that we give them on that last day of class. We invite them to, like I said, bring their family. We make sure that they have something to eat, just because we want to make sure that that's not something that they worry about on that day. We take care of their parking to make sure if they need to get into the place to be into Chicago State to be able to park, and we make sure that their family is able to celebrate them on that day. We take pictures, we send them the pictures. So it's just a really really good time with them. And then as far as them learning in the class, like I said, it's a 6 to 8 week cohort. They do have homework. They do have those moments where they come in class and they're asking a lot of questions, and we make sure that we try to be like the hub to make sure that they get all of their questions answered, all of their resources that they need fulfilled, and we bring that bright smile and that great personality and attitude to make sure that they want to come back for the next cohort and the next cohort. Next picture, please. Next slide. And I am Pamisha Robinson, and of course, my project manager, Natalia. We thank you guys so much.
Felicia and Natalia, thank you so much for your insightful and beautiful presentation about your program. I want to go back and bring everybody to mind a previous slide. I wasn't able to stay on it very long. When I said, who are digital navigators? Members of the community that they serve, empathetic, problem solvers, culturally competent, service-oriented, patient, and reliable. I think you've heard that. in this wonderful program and from Prometheus. So thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on very quickly to our next community spotlight with Lake County and Lake County Digital Growth Initiative with Kay Crandall. Take it away, Kay.
Thanks, Anita. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kay Crandall. I'm the Digital Equity Manager for Lake County. And I'm, so inspired by Natalia and Hamisha's work. They're doing excellent work at Chicago State. And I love that they have such great passion for the work that they're doing. Thank you so much for sharing about your program. It's exciting to see how much it's grown since I think I last spoke with your team. So it's wonderful. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'll move on to the next slide, Nancy. Thanks. So this is the brief agenda for my presentation today. I will give a summary of our county's broadband and digital equity action plan and its strategies, and also give you an overview of our funding and budget. And then we'll get into our plan strategy about digital navigators, talking about external and internal programs, and also briefly touch on our digital skills curriculum. And throughout, sorry for the typo, throughout, I'll talk about some of our challenges that we are experiencing in different aspects of our program, and then have some information and ways that you can get in touch with us. Next slide, please. So here, these are all of the strategies in our Lake County Broadband and Digital Equity Action Plan. If you're interested in reading more deeply into the plan, you can scan that QR code or go to the link that Alicia posted in the chat to our Digital Navigator program. Go to the main page of our DGI webpage and view the plan details there. There's an overview, and if you get into any of the appendices, I would recommend Appendix A. Has the best nitty-gritty details on each strategy. So here I've highlighted two of our key strategies, the Expand Digital Navigators 5-1 and the related 5-2 Coordinate Digital Literacy Programming. All of these strategies are active with the exception of 4-2 with the Affordable Connectivity Program having sunset. And what's relevant here is strategy 7-1, establishing a digital equity fund. So seeking funds to sustain our programming into the future. And one of those ways that we may be able to do that is through applying for the Illinois Digital Equity Capacity Grant. Next slide, please. Briefly about our funding source. So the county received American Rescue Plan Act funds in 2021, and some of those funds have been allocated to our broadband and digital equity action plan to implement the strategies that were outlined on the previous slide. And this initiative at Lake County is the Lake County Forward. And so if you're interested, you could scan that code, or you can Google Lake County Forward, and you can read more about other programs the county has worked on under American Rescue Plan Act funds. And I'll note that a challenge with these funds is that they're only available to us until December 31st, 2026. So we were tasked with a small team to obligate all of those funds by the end of 2024. So we had to have all of our funding contracted, and we had to have all of our ducks lined up of what we were going to do with our money, how we were going to spend all of it. And now we have the duty to spend the money by December 31st, 2026. And so that is a restriction and a challenge, and there are certain U.S. Treasury guidelines aligned with ARPA funds that we have to follow that, cause some limitations on what we're able to deliver in our current programming. Next slide, please. So here I'm giving you really a breakdown of our budget. And we initially started with nearly $12 million. And due to the restriction of having to have all of these funds obligated with a very limited time frame and limited staff capacity, we pared down this budget. And so in August, we said, we're going to go almost half of that budget, just under 6 million. And after December 31st, 2024, we had obligated just less than that at the total budget you see in the table, 5.8 million. And you can see the breakdown there. We have $1,777,000 allocated to our Digital Navigator program. That's a huge part of our budget. And we also have $2.2 million allocated to our device distribution program, which works with the Digital Navigator program and the Learn to Earn programs that we'll be carrying out in the community. And then we also have some funds allocated to our digital literacy program coordination. And so those are all very tightly tied together. And I think I touched on our sustainability challenge and our procurement challenge as well. So next slide, please, Nancy. So our external digital navigator programs, and what I mean by this is that we went through an RFP process to identify community organizations that we could deploy digital navigators from. And so we released an RFP last May, and through that process, we executed 2 agreements with external organizations. And as I mentioned, our funds are only through the end of 2026. And so these programs are also restricted to that timeline through that funding source. And we were very excited to be training and have deployed digital navigators at those 2 sites with those organizations last fall. And we procured for our training, one part of our training through Community Tech Network. And this is an organization, if you haven't heard of it, out of California. And they're active in the NDIA listserv if you are a part of that. So you may have been to one of their trainings or their webinars. And so they have a customizable program training package for digital navigators and managers. And so all of our digital navigators and program managers have gone through the Community Tech Network training. And then I also developed a Lake County Digital Navigator implementation guide and training packet with other webinars and certificate trainings that our digital navigators can take for free. So there's a combination of a few different methods for training that have happened, but it applies to our external partners and our internal digital navigators and staff as well. Next slide, please. So I want to highlight both of our external organizations. And the first is the African American Museum in Waukegan, Illinois. You can scan the QR code to get onto their website, where you can look up the organization, the African American Museum at the England Manor. And so they have a very unique program where they tie in genealogy research to learning digital skills. And so this just goes to show that any organization that wants to do digital literacy can find the hook of their audience and what they're interested in and tie it into, how those digital skills are relevant. So on the left, there's a flyer and exploring ancestry through digital experiences. And they're working with the Zion Genealogical Society. And through this program, they are in their 2nd cohort now, and they have talked about, how the folks at the Genealogical Society maybe were not so into the digital skills component, but now that they've been working on it together, everyone's more excited about the digital skills and the genealogy and that collaboration. And so they've been able to host those classes at a few different libraries at locations such as the museum and community centers in a couple of different Lake County communities. Next slide. The second organization that I want to highlight is the Highwood Library and Community Center in Highwood, Illinois. And I won't be able to play this, but this video on the right is Aurora Santos, one of our digital navigators at the Highwood Library and Community Center. And they are so dedicated to serving their community there in a lot of different ways. But the digital navigators especially are very passionate, and Aurora leads the basic computer skill class there, which is a learn to earn model program where residents are earning devices, and they've given out a couple of dozen devices through their program already. And I also wanted to highlight this collaboration with the second class here, explaining genealogy through digital experiences. African American Museum is bridging this gap between folks in Waukegan, Illinois, and Highwood, Illinois. And so maybe folks in Highwood don't have the opportunity to travel to Waukegan or Zion to participate in these classes. So they're bringing the classes down to them. And so I love to see that partnership and, you know, exploring opportunities for collaboration across our partners is really key and something that we're really interested in cultivating in Lake County. Again, a QR code you can scan to get on the Highwood site. They also have some walk-in tech support times with one of our other digital navigators, Candace, and they also offer workshops on Saturdays where folks can participate in the class and then enter into a raffle to earn a laptop if they can't make the Learn to Earn programs during the week. Next slide, please. And so our internal digital navigator program, we've just begun hiring. We brought on 3 staff in January. So I mentioned Candace, she is our digital navigator coordinator, and she is helping to facilitate programming and support scheduling of all the digital navigators at different sites. And then we have 2 digital navigators, Hector Guafaro, who is assigned to the Lake County Job Center and assists with resume building and TABE testing and basic computer skills, lots of different unique things. And then also Genesis Avila, who is assigned at the Mid Lakes Health Center in Round Lake Beach. And she assists residents with setting up their patient portal, learning how they can leverage the portal to learn about their health records and communicate with their doctors and nurses. And she's also hosting programming at some local community sites as well. Learn to Earn models are being hosted at the Job Center and in the community area in Round Lake. And then looking ahead, we're going to be hiring more digital navigators. And I want to just mention that we outsource this hiring process. So as far as so MGT, we have a contract with MGT, and they post the job description up and do the initial recruitment, which allows our team to then go through the interview process and to find the right applicants and those folks that are going to be really good fit for digital navigator roles. And so that's, a challenge and an administrative benefit to work with this outside entity. It doesn't allow for as much flexibility in benefits and in making changes for the digital navigators. But it does save us some time in the hiring process. And I'll also say that I was hired through MGT as well. So our whole team, we have the contract to hire through MGT. Next slide. And I know that it was already mentioned, Natalia mentioned North Star. We also use North Star. We're just starting to use it. It has all of these great updated skill areas. And we purchased 30 licenses that we will soon be distributing to different community organizations. And we're working on that strategy right now. So more to come, but we hope that organizations maybe will have their own license that is under an umbrella of the county so that we can have all the data in one place, see how many folks are getting certificates and passing assessments and the most interested topics that folks are learning about and to measure all of those metrics. Next slide, please. And here, finally, to get in touch with us, my contact information, our digital navigator email and hotline phone number, and also our general broadband email, which goes to the team as well. And we have an upcoming coalition meeting on Tuesday, February 25th from 12:30 to 1:30. So you can scan the QR code to register or click the link when you get this deck. And I would appreciate if you're able to join us for our meeting, but thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much, Kay. I really appreciate your time, and we are coming up on time because of all this great information. So you will be getting these slides, and then you can have an opportunity to look at this slide, which has more different digital navigation programs. Skip over. Okay, I mean, okay, Nancy, to the resources, because I want to make sure we get out. These are a list of things to think about when doing your digital navigator project. Jeremy just asked a great message in the chat about how do you decide how much to pay your digital navigator? Well, that's something that we wanted to have you all think about. It's all depending on whether or not you want part-time or full-time or a contract, or if you want them to be an employee, or if you can be have them employee of the organization. And so let's skip to the last slide. I want to make sure we get the resources out for you guys to get more information. Nancy? All right, these are some digital equity resources that are available right now on the Office of Broadband's website that will help you think about how to write a great grant. Obviously, links to the NOFO and the grant application, and a bunch of other resources as you're trying to think about how to justify or showcase your community need. We also want you to sign up for our newsletter, where you will receive up-to-the-date things that are happening between the Illinois Broadband team and your partner sign up right there. On that link will be live in the slides, where you can also get email blast about breaking news and other things that are happening. Last slide. I don't know if it's the last one. Oh, yes. And so if all these great questions that we are not going to get an opportunity to get to, you actually can go to jump in one of the office hours. So this link that you see on here, and the link that I'm sure Alicia is dropping. Now, don't click on that link. That actually will take you to an empty virtual office. What you'll need to do is grab that link, maybe put it on a calendar invite that you'll have on your calendar, and then at Tuesdays or later this afternoon at 2 o'clock, you can hop on to the virtual office link, and we will have one of the either community engagement managers or Office of Broadband team members that can ask some of those specific questions. And I think we have one last slide. Maybe we do, maybe we don't, Nancy. Obviously, if you have specific questions, if you don't have time to hop on one of the things, but you want to send a quick question email, please reach out to the broadband at illinois.gov, and someone will answer your question between 24 and 48 hours. I want to thank everyone for their time, since we are at time. I hope this was informative. I hope that you were able to learn about these great programs. And I know that our team is looking forward to seeing these amazing applications that you are going to bring in order to hire some digital navigators. Thank you all so much. I'm going to hang out. If anyone have any other questions, for those that have to hop off, that's fine. And once again, all of these will be available to you on the Office of Broadband website, as well as the Extensions YouTube page. Nancy, you had any other closing thoughts before we log off?
I don't think so. I saw Devin invited everyone on who might have some additional questions to the 2 to 3 p.m. office hours, and she put a link in the chat there. So I think that's great. And I know we're at 12:01, and I just think this is a great last webinar in the series. And we really love that we can support you here at Illinois Extension and support what the Illinois Office of Broadband and the Illinois Broadband Lab is doing with this outreach. And we're just so happy to be able to encourage everyone along with you across the state in these endeavors, and hope that everyone have a great rest of their Valentine's Day and a wonderful weekend as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Kay, for your invaluable time and information.
Thanks. Take care, everyone.